Beyond Take Bait. Peace and blessings to the collective. Rahu in the third, Ketu in the ninth. What is to this axis, right? Ketu in the ninth. Ketu in the ninth is showcasing and signifying a person who has a great level of mastery, a great level of achievement, a great level of understanding and subconscious conditioning in regards to the area of life that deals with following a religious or a spiritual tradition. You know what I'm saying? Belief in the divine. Belief in the laws of the universe. You feel me? The blueprint of the universe. Seeking, the higher truths and the higher wisdoms that allow one to dissolve the impurities within their own being and within their duality, right? So Ketu in the ninth, it can showcase a person who you feel me, within previous lifetimes. You could have been an avid, religious, what do you call it? Religious follower of some sort, or or a spiritualist, but not just a spiritualist. You feel me? A spiritualist of light, for lack of a better word. You know what I'm saying? You're following a set tradition or a set outlook to evolve the self beyond the limited self, right? And it can showcase a person who has a great deal of experience in adhering to certain laws or spiritual customs. A person who, might have um, a general conditioning or a general desire, a general they generally like to maybe research different religions or different scriptures, you feel me, or any particular things and wisdom that speak to higher truth, you feel me, even quantum physics and mechanics and things like that, right? Anything that can explain, you know what I'm saying, the overall picture or the bigger picture of, this reality that we happen to be a part of and whatnot, right? K2 in the ninth, it can signify a person who, feels an innate connection or a belief in an innate connection with a higher force, whether it be the higher self, whether you want to call it Dr. Umar, whether you want to call it the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, whoever you want to call your God. You know what I'm saying? You just have a belief in that. You have a innate belief in Dharma, in following a righteous path for outlook. But the particular confusion or disinterest and detachment that K2 can experience within the ninth house is, faith can only take you so far without your own works or without your own self-effort, which is indicated in the third house, right? Especially if you place your faith within the wrong things, especially if you get to, coming across certain religious traditions or, studying different, spiritual outlooks from a worldwide perspective. It's like, okay, there are disagreements. You K2 in the ninth is known that you cannot take the religion for the face value. K2 in the ninth, it understands that, it's a deeper, internal truth. Excuse me, right? Just burping and shit, just nasty as fuck. But K2 in the ninth, it can have an understanding that, it's a deeper thing beyond the face level, religion and whatnot. K2 in the ninth can have a unity consciousness in regards, or unity consciousness belief in regards to all the multiplicity of religions that can be found worldwide in spiritual traditions also, right? But even with all of these particular things, like K2 in the ninth really is searching for that God contact, or, that realization, if you will. And it can often get disinterested in especially searching from that on a worldly perspective. So what's left to do is the self-work, the self-effort, and have faith in your own self, which is signified by the Rahu in the third house. That, having third house is your own self-effort, your own self-experiment, your own self-adventure, regardless of what somebody else tell you, regardless of an instruction from an outside source, regardless of what they believe to be right and they believe to be wrong. It's your own self effort. It's taking things into your own hands. That's the third house, right? And in order to really bring a moksha, or in order to really bring a satisfaction to this Ketu in the ninth, the person within this particular lifetime is going to have to learn how to cultivate their own self effort, and you know what I'm saying, take matters into their own hands, right? And with Rahu in the third house, you know, uh, it's a very strong position for Rahu. This axis in itself, in particular, is a very strong axis. So with Rahu in the third, just to go off the top of the head and name a few things that it can signify. Rahu in the third can signify uh, a person who's excellent, uh, really intelligent, excellent with intelligence. You know what I'm saying? Excellent in communication, excellent in being able to convey the mental concepts that arise within their own mind into the outside public and reality or whatnot, right? Like an excellent orator or an excellent writer of some sort, or a very studious person as well, like able to study, able to run through information, you know what I'm saying, accumulate it, and on their own time, like don't have to be taught by nobody, able to do their own study and come to their own conclusion. Rahu in the third can give like somewhat of a scientific mindset. They're nosy. They have an investigative quality about themselves. You know, they do their own self search. They do their own self adventure. You know, they don't have the quality of just believing what somebody else tells them. Rahu in the third. They implement and use their own perspective to come to their own answer or whatnot, which can be genius in some ways. It can be ignorant in some ways. It can work out in some ways. It cannot work out in some ways. You feel me? But get into it. Rahu in the third can also make a person I guess the downsides. Person, well, it's not really downside, but a person can be very comedic. They can like to have a lot of fun. You know what I'm saying? They can be like a troll, or like to joke a lot, or, like to communicate, like to gossip, you know what I'm saying, on bullshit sometimes or whatnot. Like to enjoy themselves around those type of people and them type of spaces or whatnot. Like it's fun. They like to laugh. They love to laugh. You know what I'm saying? They love to to bullshit. Might not always be on a serious note as far as getting caught up in drama and gossip, but Rahu the third can have a taste for that and can kind of get carried away with that if not careful. Rahu in the third can also signify a person who has a high degree of energy and a high degree of lust within themselves. You know what I'm saying? Like constantly craving, constantly feeling like they have to do something, have to be a part of some activity, have to get their hands on something, have to be running or walking or going somewhere. And it can be great if a person can find a way to channelize this particular Rahu, because you can channelize it in a proper activity, in the proper forms of self effort. You know what I'm saying? Whether you taking up a yoga practice, or you get into boxing or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Or you taking chess classes or whatever. Like you can challenge yourself, and you can get yourself engaged in various forms of self effort, that can build your skill, that can build your expertise, that can build the sharpness of your body and your mind. It can pretty much make you a formidable weapon within the society, you know what I'm saying? On all levels, physically, mentally, spiritually, financially, all that. So it can be a great placement if a person can find a way to channelize the Rahu energy properly. But if not properly caught and channelized on both ends of the spectrum, Rahu in the third, especially if the Rahu axis, like if it's a lot of planets with the third house, and it's not necessarily in the best of signs or placements, it can cause like crash out type energy, crash out, or even things like that. Uh, Rahu in the third can do things your own way. So the Rahu in the third can somewhat bring a criminal element into the the native's life. So maybe you steal. You know what I'm saying? Maybe you lie a little bit. Maybe it'll give a person the ability to go with their own moral code, for lack of a better word. K2 in the ninth is kind of detaching from the the dogma that can be contained within the ninth house. You know, like I guess you could say in one particular religion, you know how Hebrews, they like to do the fringe on their shirts or whatever, or they don't go outside on Saturdays. It's like that's dogma. That's not necessarily a rule that contributes to right or wrong. That's just a meaningless law if you want to call it right. So K2 in the ninth wants to detach from the superficial or the meaningless dogma and the meaningless laws, and you know what I'm saying, kind of have their own interpretation or with their own perspective on what's right or wrong, which can be showcased by Rahu in the third. But Rahu in the third, it can bring a degree of criminality into the personality, and not to say you have to be an evil motherfucker, but maybe you steal from the store, maybe you you know what I'm saying, you trick people, or you lie to people just for the fun of it, or whatever, it depends upon the strength and the intensity of the Rahu end of this axis or whatnot, right? uh But yeah, it can. I would just say this: it can bring a degree of trickster energy into it. But trickster doesn't necessarily mean evil. Like the Shwini Kumara. They often joked a lot, with tricksters or whatnot. I think Alegba, was a trickster, or not Eshu. Eshu was a trickster. You feel me? Uh, but still was a messenger of God. Mercury and the what is it? The Romanian pantheon, after the Roman gods. Fuck, I forget. But Mercury, right? A trickster, still a messenger of the gods. Inky. Kind of had that mercurial energy, which is a reflection of that third house. Inky was a trickster, but still, a good and a godly personality. Uh, it's that type of shit. It's like, you feel me? Yeah, a little mischievous. Yeah, Rahu the third can make a person somewhat mischievous. Can make a person somewhat devious in certain aspects, but uh, not necessarily evil or demonic. Like still can be a good-hearted, genuine soul, good personality, and all that. Uh, what else? Rahu in the third. Rahu in the third house can, I already mentioned, like, have a person feeling like they constantly have to be engaged in a multiplicity of activities, or constantly needed some type of stimulation. If a person is not careful, they can have a harsh form of speech about themselves, or a harsh form of communication, not necessarily all the time, but some words that they use or say could be rather brash. I would more so say if it's definitely like Rahu, maybe conjunct malefics or something as well, or aspect about malefics. But uh, even alone, like they can have a certain way of saying things that might rub people like whoa, like like it's kind of dirty, for lack of a better word. Rahu and Rahu in the third. What else about Rahu in the third? Rahu in the third. It is great though, and it is a great placement as far as being able to succeed, monetarily in today's world, because it can really give a person like Rahu in the third is inflating the communication. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's giving gift to the communication. So a person really has the ability to communicate the mental concepts that arise within their mind, in a genius fashion, whether orally or whether through written communication, and can be quite entertaining with this communication as well. Like, you know what I'm saying, can be quite enchanting, can be quite mystifying, um A person could be a good journalist or a good writer of some sort or a podcaster. You know what I'm saying? You know, uh, a comedian even. You know, if you want to call it that. A good number of things, but is especially in today's economy as we're moving towards a gig economy. So, 5, 10 years from now, is 9 to 5 is pretty much going to be a thing of the past. It's not going to be too much of that type of activity going on. Like jobs that a lot of the jobs now are going to be outsourced to AI, to the robots and shit and whatnot, right? And damn brain fart. A lot of the jobs are going to be outsourced to AI and robotic technology. And, for those who don't necessarily have their own skill sets or don't necessarily have their own talents or things that they can market to the world for some type of income or profit, those people are going to be the ones who pretty much are going to be receiving UBI, which is universal basic income, which is, I guess you could say, like a social security payment of some sort, right? And it's basically just going to be enough to meet your base level necessities. You pretty much going to cap you with that. They're trying to you know um, further enlarging the gap between the 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 low class and the upper class, to where pretty much you're going to crystallize or create a permanent low class of some sort, right? Kind of like the book The Giver, if y'all ever read it, a dystopian future of some sort. But yeah, brain fart. But yeah, no. So if you have Rahu in the third, though, like it gives you the genius, it gives you the gun ho, it gives you the interest, it gives you the obsession, it gives you the desire to really jump out here, take risks to formulate and to create your own avenues of, financial success. Your own avenue of a trade or a skill or a talent or a career or whatever. Like, do start it up on your own, create it on your own, and have people come to you, for your service or for your skill or for your talent or for whatever you have to offer the world and whatnot. Like, you create it yourself. You don't necessarily rely on somebody else or or whatever to start it off for you. Rahu in the third can showcase somebody who's able to do that for themselves. And do it constructively, so and yeah, like podcasters, artists of some sort, writers, people with different skills, talents, and trades are basically going to be the ones who are eating or able to avoid being stuck within a permanent low class in a gig economy. you know if you don't have a skill, if you don't have a talent, if you know, pretty much just been working, McDonald's or a warehouse or whatever, like, you know, not going to be able to grow. It's going to be very hard to grow, I'll say, without your own skill or skill set, you feel me, ingrained within your person. So, yeah, Rahu in the third, it can definitely show somebody who has interest in doing the self effort to liberate themselves from being capped uh, or being limited in their hustle, right? So yeah, it's very much so great for success in today's age and time and whatnot. Rahu in the third. What else can I say? Or how does one mitigate this axis? Have faith, hold faith. Make sure you appease Ketu. The ritualistic practices of the ninth house, the ritualistic adherence, you know what I'm saying, to a particular god or to a particular spiritual outlook or whatever. You never let that go. You can't never really let that go fully, because K2 was there, and K2 clings in a way to the area of life that is situated within. But I would say get more organized and get more regulated on some level and to some degree with that K2 placement. You don't have to necessarily, do 100 million rituals an hour, for the next 10 years. You know, just make sure that you're doing something, I would say, daily to appease, maintaining that connection with Ketu, or maintaining that cleansing ability, that purity of the ninth house with Ketu. And, on a Rahu end, maybe experiment, like, experiment with some of your own spiritual ideas or concepts, or you know what I'm saying, practices or alignments or whatever you want to call it, you know what I'm saying. Maybe you integrate different religious systems, or not necessarily like you have to mix different religions, or maybe you like Jeet Kune Do, like Bruce Lee, you feel me? He pretty much amalgamated different systems of martial arts into one, and made his own creative system, or his own creative form of martial arts. And he wrote a book about it, and he marketed it to the world, which is genius, right? I wonder if he had K2 in the ninth house. I'll check after this video. He probably didn't. Uh, But yeah, brain fart. Yeah, like, but nah, do your own thing. Like, become creative, become experimental in all that you do, whether it's spiritual or whether it's material, and become deeply invested into doing your own investigation and your own research on a scientific level as well, right? Deontay Bay.